Hey, peace and love, family. How you guys doing today? How you guys doing today? I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Look at this beautiful day. Look at this beautiful day. Look at this beautiful day. So much sun. Oh, are you grounded? I hope you're grounded. I hope you're grounded. Alright. Today, we're going to talk about displacement again. Right? We're going to put this frequency out again. Because people need to learn about displacement. We all need to learn about displacement. Once we understand displacement, so much starts to heal up here. So much is going to start to clear out. Because a lot of us are full of things, right? And displacement was the thing. But displacement is a very big issue and a key issue that we deal with in society today, right? So the first way for us to understand displacement, right, is to define displacement. So what is displacement? Okay. First thing you have to realize about displacement, and I'm going to use an example to explain it, right? So, there's a park at an elementary school, right? And at this park, there's third graders, second graders, and first graders, right? So 3 grades are at this one park. Third, second, and first graders. Now, there's a bully in the third grade, right? The bully in the third grade decides to pick on a small kid in the second grade, right? So he picks on this little second grader, right? The second grader then realizes that he can't pick on anyone else in the second grade. He's not big enough to pick on other people within the second grade. So what does the second grader do? The second grader now decides to pick on a first grader and a smaller first grader. So that, in the smallest definition, right, and in the most simple example, is displacement. Now, how does that definition of displacement correlate to healing yourself in society today? Or the notion of what we need to do to heal psychologically and heal our perspectives, right? It goes very deep, right? Now, when you look at your life, and I'll look at my life, and that's what I'm going to use as the measuring stick, right? There are so many things that have gone on in my life, right? And so much information that I've learned in my life, and so many things that have happened in my life that have allowed me to place blame on things other than myself, right? That have allowed me, if I wanted to, and if I choose to give an excuse for actions that I partake in, right? To help me to deal with hurts that have been going on in my life, right? There were so many different points in my life where I could say, and I could admit to sitting down and putting things and blame on places that it didn't belong because it helped me, and I just given the excuse in order to do it. It was like I couldn't deal with the source. So instead of dealing with the source sometimes, and instead of really diving in deep and figuring out what is the source to our problems, sometimes we look to displace it. We look to blame on something else, right? So let's look at society for a second today, right? Let's look at people in the awareness community, people in the forms of the conscious community. How do you see displacement play out within people within the conscious community, right? If you look at most people in society today, we all have this desire to be comfortable, to fit in, right? We have this notion where we all don't really like the way society is run, right? We have this notion where there's laws that don't represent us. There are people in government that don't represent us. There are business that don't have the world's interest in its heart and in its mind. All these different layers, right, in just your general commercial, quote unquote, society, right, where you can start to see that most people who are consciously aware start to kind of like move against it. We don't really like it, right? Now, our job is supposed to be, once we become aware of these things, once I have knowledge and I see where these imperfections are, I see where these atrocities are, I see where these problems are, I am supposed to do the best things that I can so that I can remove myself from these environments, from these people, from these places. However, what is displacement? Displacement that comes in these forms is when we start to blame things, right? We start to blame the theys. We blame the government. We blame these different things for us not being and acting in the change that we want to see in the world, right? We start to blame the government for this. I blame this person. I blame this culture. I blame this ethnicity. I blame all of these different things, right? for things that go on in my life that if I just paid more focus and attention onto what I was doing in my day-to-day basis, I could correct some of these things, right? So let's look at certain things that go on that almost seem like hypocritical when we talk about this subject, right? So I'm going to speak from a spiritual being perspective now, right? As a spiritual being, right, I resonate that I'm an eternal frequency, I'm an eternal energy, I'm an eternal soul, right? My soul was here and my energy form was around far before I vibrated into this frequency, right? So if my soul and my energy was here far before I vibrated into this frequency, does it make sense for me to always be over-identifying with ethnicity? Does it make sense for me to be carrying and holding so much weight and so much anger and so much of this discourse on the fact of ethnic understanding, of frequency of color that I vibrated in on? Now, when you look at things like melanin, right, and we look at carbon, and we look at these things that are things that help us define our reality, that is a completely different perspective, right? But when I talk about nationality, right, when we're talking about nationality understanding, right, a nation building, nation conscious, right, does it make sense for me to be a spiritual being but to be talking about nationality or ethnicity from an aspect of nationality, right? So if my family hails from a certain location geographically, right, but then I want to say that in the same breath and in the same token, I'm an eternal being, right? But what do? I then start to blame certain things on certain other ethnicities. I start to blame things on certain other things around, instead of looking at what's the basis of all this. How does all that stuff that happened before you have to do with you, right? And how much can you change your reality in order so that your reality doesn't incorporate those things? So you look at America, right? We look at Western society, right? And there are so many atrocities and things that go on, and like sickening things that happen to people within this country or Western civilization, right? There's so many different things that happen in Western civilization that you would say is inequalities, right? Is discrimination, right? But a lot of the people who are having problems with these things, a lot of the people who are always talking about these things are staying in these environments, are staying in places where they're constantly reminded of these things, instead of going to places where they can help to heal and cleanse those conscious understandings, right? They can help to heal and cleanse these things. Now, look at me, right? Look at me. I'm mixed with all different things. Literally, if we wanted to go to just ethnicity, right? And I want to just go to just my lineage as far as who I am and where I am right now. I'm mixed with everything. Cape Verdean, Portuguese, French Canadian, freaking Native American. I have all these different things represented and manifest in me, right? If I wanna now identify with these things is what I'm saying. If I want to identify, right? Now, when I was growing up, right? When I was in middle school, I was in high school, right? I was in high school shortly after a few years after 9/11, right? So I remember one day I was in high school and the Air Force came to do like some kind of presentation, right? So they had a Black Hawk fly in, and I was in gym class. Right in the middle of gym class when this was flying in, they were like, watch out for Barboza, he might do something. Like me, because I look like Middle Eastern, right? How many times because I have this beard, there are people calling me terrorist, people call me things of this nature, right? Now, if I wanted to, right, if I really cared that much, if it really mattered to me, could I always look for a reason why these things keep me from feeling comfortable places? These things keep me from feeling happy, feeling fulfilled, all of these different things in places. Yes, I could, right? But does that make it okay? Just because I could, does it always mean that I should, right? Now, let's bring this back even further now, right? Let's bring this back even further. Now, in order for us to live in this society, in order for us to ascribe to the things we ascribe to, right? We also have to ascribe to a nature of self-destructive habits, right? Self-destructive habits, right? So just my phone, right? Just this building, right? All these different things. All these different things taking from nature, taking from the environment, taking, right, in order to create these things. Now, does any of these things really give back? do we have any systems in place as a society that ever give back to on a way that we take? Like, are we taking more and giving just as equally, or are we taking far more than we're giving? These are questions that we have to. So now, when you look at displacement, right? We look at displacement in this thing, right? We do not want to acknowledge and come to an understanding with the fact that we're taking so much, right? So what do we do to displace on that? We focus so much on attaining things, right? Because if we really focused on what we're giving back and all these things, it would start to cook up some emotions in you, right? That's why you have certain people, when they reach that understanding of the give and take of reality, the give and take of society, the give and take of what we're supposed to be doing, right? We reach these blocks. We reach very big blocks, right? Because in order for me to really look at these things with a healthy, open perspective, that means I have to admit and be accountable for things in my life that I'm doing that lead to this. Right now, I'm making this live video on a phone, right? What goes on in order for me to get this phone? Right? When you look up cobalt, when you look up all these different minerals that it takes to just have the phone that we have, right? All the different minerals that it takes to have this phone, how are they getting it? There's child labor involved, right? There's all these different fossil fuels that are burned to ship it over. There are so many different layers, right? Layers of things that go on just for me to have this one device, right? So displacement is saying and starting to not acknowledge where the things came from and how the things were brought into existence, and focus solely on something else, other problems, right? You look at how we're worried about in our country, right? In our country, we have homeless people everywhere, right? In America, there's homeless people, there's starving people all over the place, right? But when I traveled to Costa Rica, people were like, did you go and stay with any humanitarian camps? Did you stay and do? And I said, well, if I wanted to give back, right, I would go to any single city and bring meals and just go out and feed people. If I really wanted to give back, I would go to any place within my own country, within my own community, and look to help those people, right? We have this weird obsession, right, with always trying to place we have this weird obsession in society with placing our intent and our abilities in places that it doesn't belong, right? So if I'm someone who's here in America, right, and let's say in Massachusetts, I know in Boston there is such a community of people that need my help, right? Why am I so worried about going to a third world country all the time to help them when there's so many people right where I'm at that could use my help, right? That could use my help. And on top of that, am I doing everything that I can within my environment to really help myself through things, right? Because we have to start to realize that the farther I create a swing on one side, I'm only going to create the equal swing on the other side, right? So the more that I'm a standout Republican, I'm only going to create for a standout Democrat. The more that I push a certain ideology and notion so heavy on one side, the more that it's going to happen on the opposite side of it, right? Because in order for one thing to exist, there has to be the other. That's why finding the middle ground is so important, right? Now, when I say this, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't give back. Every person has so many things within their world and within their reality that they could give back right now, right? They could give back. They can give back in so many different ways. Everybody has so many different ways to give back and help to provide for others and show others, right, the things that are going on. However, right, within our society, we have to first you have to take a look at self. I have to see I and do the best I can to heal I before I can begin to try and heal others. Things outside of myself that are really just reflections of inside of me, right? Because everything that I really focus on and I zone in on and I hone in on will always give it a piece of what's going on wrong in me. Have you ever noticed that? Have you noticed that, like, there are people, right, like me, when I, like, for some of the healing, when But I was sick. I was very sick, right? And when I first healed myself, all I wanted to do was heal other people who had the same things as me. Right? Because I spent so much time focusing on the things that I needed to heal in myself. Within my reality, I could see it stick out in so many other places. But now, the way I heal and the way I go about healing is I just speak about my perspective on things, and I allow for people to extrapolate and take out what could heal them from the things that I'm saying, right? Because it's not about pointing the finger and pointing the blame. It's about putting the blame and pointing the finger here first. Once I first start to point the blame and put the finger on me and say, yo, I want to help sustainable energy, right? Does that mean that I go and make a sign and go stand out on a street corner and say, yo, you guys should, everyone needs to think about sustainable energy? No. What I should do is look into solar panels that I can use. What I should do is look into goal zero. What I should do is look in for ways that within my reality, within the things that I do, right, I can take on the sustainable energy thing in my own sense, even if it's so small, right? Even if I go out and purchase the Yeti. If I go purchase the Yeti and I ran my smoothie mixer, my phone charger, and I don't know, my laptop, right? Those three things, those are the only three like electrical things I really, and put one light on it, right? One light. If I did that, those four things I put on this Yeti, you know how many times that saved you from flicking on the switch and using fossil fuels? Goal zero, right? If you go on my page, if you go on my Facebook timeline right now and scroll down, you'll see I posted a picture about the Yeti Goal Zero, right? Goal Zero is a website, right, that has a bunch of sustainable energy like things. They have solar panels, they have solar batteries, things that you can buy to have on you all the time so that you could actually take yourself off the grid more. And you could start in a grassroots way removing yourself from these systems that don't serve us, that don't serve the overall good, right? When I say the overall good, I mean the nature, right? Because what we have to start to understand, like, and here is something beautiful, right? We have to start to understand the cancer that we're causing before we start to try and push and focus on the cancer everywhere else. Everyone is so worried about the healing of cancer, but they don't understand they're being a part of cancerous things. We're being a part of cancerous ideologies. We're being a part of cancerous systems that have been set up within our society. Right? Everything, if everybody here took one step, right, and went out and bought something from Goal Zero, bought some kind of solar converter, right, and you kept that at your house, and you charged, and you used half of your electricity on it. You ran all of your phones on it. You ran your laptop on it. You ran your TV on it. You ran a couple of lights in your house off of it. Do you know how much you are cutting down on the overall usage of electricity? Do you know how much you're being the change instead of always just speaking on it? Right? How much are you able to be the change now? That's why when it comes to things like grocery shopping gets intense, right? I can't sit here and say I dislike Monsanto and not buy organic food. Because what does conventional farming use? They use pesticides, they use all these different things, right? So I can't sit here and say I hate Monsanto and not go out and buy organic stuff. Because now I'm not living the truth, I'm displacing it. I'm saying that this company is the reason why this is happening, blah, 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 blah. But in my life, because I'm guilty, because in my life I know I'm not doing all the things necessary, right? And that's when we start to heal. We start to heal as a society, right? When we start to really take a full accountability, right, for the things that we know and we see, and it becomes my job, my purpose, right? My job to make the change. It becomes my job to do, even if it's the smallest thing. On a large scale, it's big, right? Because if you got a solar converter, right, and for the rest of your life, right, you had 1 or 2 lights in your house connected to it, you had your phone charger connected to it, and I don't know, maybe one other thing, right? You are cutting down on so much fossil fuel use, right? You are cutting down on so much deforestation. You're cutting down on so much destruction of the natural world that you become the change you're trying to see in the world. And that's where the beauty comes in, right? Every person on the conscious movement, right? You have so much knowledge, right? So many conscious beings have knowledge, right? We got knowledge of laws, right? We have knowledge of like presidents. We have knowledge of vice presidents. We have knowledge of lineage, royal lineage. We have knowledge of cultural studies. We have knowledge of religious studies. Think about all the knowledge conscious people have. Now, what is the application is the question, right? What are you doing to apply this knowledge properly? And it's we have to stop pointing the finger exterior to us. Because once you realize who you are, you realize the exterior is interior, right? The change you want to see outside of you has to start with you first enacting the change in whatever way you can, right? Just like when you start to eat vegan, right? Think about it. When people start to eat vegan, they start to eat healthy, right? And you start to promote healthy eating and healthy living habits. What kind of people do you somehow attract into your life? You start to attract other vegans, other healthy eating people. Like you go to the gym a lot and you're always posting and hashtagging gains, right? All of a sudden you start getting friends and follows from other gym members and things like that. Why? Because you are living it and walking in it. You're allowed now to see the positive part of that. You're now allowed to see the positive change in things, right? You don't see as much as the negative, because now you're emitting the frequency of the positive change. And now what happens when you give? You receive, right? So you're without a doubt gonna receive the acknowledgement of what you're doing that's right, because the community that you're looking for is just waiting for you to invest in it, right? The change that you want to see in the world is just waiting for you to invest in it first. The people that you want to see in the world are just waiting for you to invest in them first. And that's where we start, right? There's so many things we can place the blame on, right? There's so many things, right? If you hate chemtrails and the chemtrails are in the sky and you know they suck, then go move to a place and research, where are the chemtrails not? If every day you wake up, you look up in the sky and you know, God damn these chemtrails, right? These motherfuckers, they're fucking with me, right? Do I always want to be in an environment where I have to look at this? Because then I'm always going to say, these motherfuckers, right? What about me? What is this motherfucker doing to stop that? Right? What am I doing to stop myself from having to see that subconscious reminder every day? What steps am I making to cure that? Right? Or am I just complaining and being stagnant? Right? We got to stop being stagnant complainers, and we got to start being active changers. You got to be an active changer, not a stagnant complainer. Peace and love. Thank you. This is the unconditional love you show me. It has to come back to you. Any being that gives unconditional love receives it. Because I know, man, I know. I've displaced in so many things. I was at where every conscious person was, man. I blame the government for every pitfall I had in my life. I blamed the banks. I blamed the credit system. I blamed all of these different things. That's why my job now and my goal, and the one thing I'm focused on in my life now, is to make it so that I can live a life without these things. I can live a life with even as minimal contact with these things in my life. And that's my goal. My goal is to have frictionless living, right? When you're conscious and the more conscious you become, frictionless living takes more focus. Frictionless living takes more awareness. Frictionless living takes more work. But that's why you were blessed with the ability to understand so much. Right? Because you see it all the time. Like I say, there are consciousness exits, right? There are certain amounts of consciousness that people will hit and stop. You'll see it all the time. People will get to certain amounts of understanding and then they cut out, right? You'll have a vegetarian that won't want to go vegan, right? Because they can't figure out how to let go of dairy, right? You'll have people who can think about veganism but don't really care that much about the environment. They care more about the health consciousness of it, right? Because when they start caring about the environment, they might see that certain other things in their life need to change. All these natures, right? So we look and break down all of these things across the whole spectrum, right? The more that you are consciously aware and become consciously aware and have the ability to become consciously aware, the burden is now placed on you, right? Because not everyone has the cognitive ability to become that conscious, right? So the more conscious I become, the more that I'm peaked to information and I keep diving deep, It's because the universe is waiting for me to keep trying to apply, to keep trying to take that step and meet it halfway, because it's giving me all the understanding. It's giving me the parameters. I'm getting the blueprint, right? Once I get the blueprint, it's my job to now start to assemble the house, right? So, and you notice that. Everyone notices in their life, when you get these blueprints, right? The more I dive in deep to these blueprints and I focus on the fine print, when I start to apply it, right? Doesn't everyone notice that once you start to apply these blueprints and start to apply the things they're seeing on these blueprints, you start to see things come together and materialize so much faster? Because you're being the change. You're walking 2 steps towards the universe. It always meets you halfway, right? The universe always meets you halfway when you have pure intent, right? Because anyone who's doing these things, right, and doing them out of a pure notion, you always get the give back, right? You can always see the people, and you always can feel the people who are doing it out of an impure intent. And you can always, when you have that pure intent on your own, right? When you really truly have the pure intent, right? Because there's so many people out here, right? So many people out here that are capitalizing, right? They're capitalizing on this. They're trying to capitalize on you. They're capitalizing on your attention. They're capitalizing on your energy, right? Instead of teaching you how to properly combine herbs in order to make a detox tea, they sell you the detox tea, right? They don't tell you how they make it, but they sell it to you, right? These are the people that you must be afraid of. These are the people that you gotta be afraid of. The people that try and sell it to you when they could just show you, right? That's why you, in your reality, have to be someone who walks it and shows it, right? Because when you walk it and show it, you teach it, right? And when you teach it, you never, ever, ever have to worry. You never have to worry about someone changing and questioning your intention. Because if your intention is pure and you're just moving on your truth and you're not trying to sell it to anyone, you're just sharing what you know without a price tag on it, no one can really affect you. No one can harm you, right? No one can harm you. It's when you try and sell someone something, right? They create the expectation, because I put an expectation on it because I create a value on this. Let everyone put the value on your thing organically. Let others place the value on what you're giving. Don't you place the value on it. No, right? Because we all know what the mind does. We all know the human mind. Look at society and the world around us. Has there been people that take advantage because they thought too highly of themselves, right? As men, right? As human beings, right? As mankind, we think about the fact that we were given dominion over this plane, right? Now, if I was given dominion over a child, does that mean I could eat the child? Does that mean I could torture the child? Does that mean I can beat the child? No. That means that I have to protect it and I have to vow for the child's safety. That's what it means to have dominion over something. Dominion means to protect. Dominion means to watch over. Dominion needs to respect, right? Dominion does not mean you could kill, steal, and destroy, right? So look at the ego of man and the heart of many men in society. We will preach and claim that we have dominion over this land, but what do we do with that dominion? Do we aid in the land? Do we give back to the land? Do we live in tune with the land? Or do we use that as an excuse, as a displacement to take from the land, to take from the people around us, to capitalize on these things? That is what we need to start to check. These are the things that we need to start to question. We must start to question these things in order to truly heal ourselves. We must start to question if my intentions are pure in order for me to actually understand what love is. Because until I can beat my intention down to a level of pureness, I'll never be able to understand what truth, pure giving is. Understand what truth is until I can become true to myself. If I can become true to my knowledge, if I could become true to love, right? I'll never be able to understand these things, right? Everything that you see in this world is a reflection of a perspective that you have. Because you can always look at one person and there's one person who loves that person and there's another person who dislikes them. But both people, that person is still the same person, but the perspectives of that person are two different perspectives. So are you going to be someone who takes accountability? Are you going to be someone who puts the burden on your shoulders to show it, to walk it, not only talk it? Are you that person to take on the accountability? Because once you are able to take on the accountability, only then will you be able to heal displacement in your life. Only then will you be able to become the change you want to see in the world. Only then, when you take all the power away, I displace the power away from all these entities that are not around me. All these entities that are not near me. Once I take the power away from them and I only focus on empowering myself and being accountability for what I do and accountable for what I do, then I become truly empowered. Then I become the change that I want to see. Then everything around me will express the change that I am and the beauty that I am. But only once I can first take accountability for who I am in this plane and what I give. But I love you all and I love myself. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Look at yourself in the mirror today. Give yourself positive affirmations. I am love, I am light, I am truth, I am justice, I am darkness, I am everything, I am nothing. I am the drop in the ocean and the ocean in a drop. I am beautiful, I am intelligent. Me saying this only reassures you that you are, because if I am, then you are, because you are a reflection of me. So when I say I love myself, you're saying I love myself. And I love myself. Peace and love.